One two one two one two. What's going on? It's your boy Jason Mass, and we are about to get into Miles Davis on the corner, 1972. This is. It's hard for me to say what my favorite Miles Davis album is. This may be it. This may be my favorite Miles Davis record. Um, yeah. And just a little backstory about what my relationship is to this particular album is me and my dad, rest in peace, used to argue about Miles Davis a lot. We both loved Miles Davis, but my dad was a jazz guy, and he was very much cut from the cloth of, he was a purist. He was a kind of blue era Miles, and the pre-fusion stuff. Whereas me, I got in on the fusion years, the later years, the late '60s, early '70s. My dad liked that stuff, and he had an appreciation for it, but he didn't accept it as jazz music. And we used to get into arguments about Miles Davis and the fusion years, and that was a reoccurring thing between me and my dad about Miles Davis. And that was a larger conversation that was happening in the jazz community and still, reverberates in the jazz community to this day about, the cool era of Miles versus the fusion years. And Miles is a guy that would over and over again just reinvent and change the nature of what it was that he was doing, musically and aesthetically. And he did that three, four, five different times in his career. And it was always very interesting, whatever direction he took it in. It was never a dull moment with Miles. And yeah, 1972, this was that era where Miles was just going out there, way out there. And what he was bringing us back from way out there, I'll say it like this. I feel like I'm a better human being just from hearing and being aware of that era of Miles Davis. It touches me in a place that few things do. But yeah, let's get off into it. On the corner, it's listed as having four tracks, you know, but in actuality, it's really, I look at it as a two-track album, two very long tracks, and each within each of those two tracks, there's several different suites, that that only gradually shift. The changes within the suites aren't that extreme. They're um, they're subtle. The change ups are subtle. But I'll give you the titles of these right here. We have track one was On the Corner slash New York Girl slash Thinking One Thing, Doing Another, and Vote for Miles. That was a track that was 19 minutes and 57 seconds long. Produced by the great T.O. Macero, just brilliant production. I mean, there's things that people right now are just now catching up to in as far as different studio techniques and production values that happened back in '72 when Miles was was doing this sort of you know clash of jazz and rock and just mixing it up into something otherworldly, you know. So with this one, it's weird to hear that jazz purists really hated this record, you know, and argued that it wasn't even jazz. And you know, brilliant piece of work from my perspective, and I think from a lot of people's perspective who's maybe a little less up themselves about what constitutes jazz versus not jazz. Um, yeah, so let's get off into breaking down these two tracks. Yeah, let's see. On the corner, the first side of the record, it sounds like a hot summer urban city day. I have visions of specifically like New York City, um, a very kind of chaotic and hectic movement as far as traffic jamming and things like that. That's musically, the hustle and bustle of the big city. That's what it sounds like, and you can almost when you're hearing this music, you can almost see the street musicians and the kids playing in the water from the fire hydrant, and just a summertime neighborhood city scene. Uh, you can see the mother with her head rag yelling to her kid from the third story window, saying, "Hey, be back in before the street lights come on." That type thing. You can visually see all of that, and the music feels and sounds yellow and red to me. Those are the colors that that come in my head when I hear side one of one on the corner, the entire side one. When the music quiets down within side one, it almost sounds like the sun going down on a very busy and hectic city day, only to reveal a, a kind of new strangeness and a mystery of nighttime in maybe the jungle. The scenery changes from the New York City scene to a daytime New York City street scene to more of an African jungle at night, almost a tribal ritual performance kind of thing going on. Something about tribesmen dancing around the fire. You can almost visualize that. And the transition again between the different suites of side one are very subtle and they're not at all abrupt. It's kind of hard to hear where one part, one suite ends and where another begins. But yeah, that's in my opinion a 9 out of 10 track. Um, just fucking brilliant. Painfully brilliant. Um, and it only gets better on side two. We still have this whole other side, and it actually gets better from that point. And the track listing, again, it's listed as 3 more tracks on the album, but in actuality, it's one long track with, let's see, what that would be, 1, 2, 3, with 4 suites within it. The suites are entitled Black Satin, One and One, Helen Butte, and Mr. Freedom X. And what this track or this side of the record deals in is like black swamp funk, In the intro, it leads into, what sounds like to me, from my opinion, in my opinion, Miles's most funky moments ever in everything I've ever heard. And I damn near think I heard everything in his catalog. But Miles, you never know. Might be some things I'm missing. He's always having new, tracks, being unearthed and things like that. But this may be the quintessential, most funky Miles right here on side two of On the Corner. And the hand claps within this track, very primo, nice touch. Miles, the trumpet that he's playing, it wails and screams off into the void. You can see those African dancers just, you know, dancing in themselves into a trance. It just and it just the snare on this track, it's like a violent snare. That snare hit, it's almost violent sounding. And if you go and listen to it, you should be able to hear what it is I'm talking about. And it there's an almost natural and more organic take on Miles's trumpet playing than what was on side one. Side one, the trumpet sounded, quite affected and everything. But by the time you get to side two, there is obviously an affected trumpet that Miles is playing, but it kind of breaks off and goes into this whole other more natural and organic sounding trumpet that that listeners of Miles' earlier work would be probably be a little bit more comfortable with hearing. Um, yeah, yeah, it's the percussion on side two of On the Corner is just so ridiculous and so epic. It takes you to a whole nother way of, you know, it's beyond words. I'm out of words on this one. So for me, Miles Davis, On the Corner, released 1972, is a 9.5 out of 10. Peace.